Brother, they genuinely believed they were clever. They thought they were pulling strings in the shadows, confident you couldn't see what was happening. They assumed your silence meant blindness. They mistook your patience for ignorance. What they never considered, not even for a second, was that you were watching every move with an unsettling calm. They believed they were in control because you never disrupted their performance. But brother, they failed to understand something fundamental. Observation is often more powerful than interruption. You didn't fight back, so they assumed every win belonged to them. They couldn't comprehend that not every battle is meant to be fought in real time. They saw your stillness as hesitation. What it really was calculation. They thought you were slow to understand the game. They never realized you had already mapped every rule they were pretending to invent. They celebrated victories you never tried to stop, because at some point, brother, you stopped valuing winning and started valuing clarity. They mistook your tolerance for submission. They never stopped to ask themselves how someone so aware could remain so calm. They believed they were shaping outcomes, rewriting narratives, controlling the direction of events. They never considered that the stage itself belonged to you. They assumed you were emotionally invested in every outcome. They didn't notice the moment you shifted into quiet documentation. They thought you were struggling to keep up. They didn't see that you were letting the story expose itself naturally. They assumed your delayed reactions meant confusion. They couldn't grasp that you weren't deciding if to respond, you were choosing when. They felt powerful because you didn't push back. But brother, power doesn't always announce itself with resistance. Sometimes power is restraint. They believed your endurance was desperation. They didn't recognize it as strategy. They treated your silence like permission. They never realized it was surveillance. They thought they were getting away with everything. They never questioned why you stopped asking questions. They assumed your emotional availability meant unlimited vulnerability. They didn't know you had already detached from the outcome they were chasing. They mistook your kindness for obliviousness. They never imagined that kindness and awareness could exist in the same person. They thought you didn't notice the shifts, the contradictions, the lies. They didn't realize you were counting inconsistencies with quiet precision. They saw your calm as comfort. They didn't see that your calm was turning into distance. They believed they were writing the ending. They never suspected you were allowing the middle to unravel on its own. They felt bold because you didn't correct them. They didn't realize correction was no longer your role. They assumed you were invested in maintaining the illusion. They never understood you were studying how the illusion sustained itself. They took your restraint as fear. They never considered that restraint could simply be restraint from ending it sooner. They thought they were outsmarting you. They didn't see that you stopped playing to win a long time ago. They assumed your delayed responses meant emotional dependence. They didn't understand it meant emotional detachment. They believed you didn't realize you were being used. They never imagined you were allowing it to continue to understand its full shape. They felt untouchable because you never named what you saw. They didn't know naming it was never your goal. They thought your patience meant hope. They didn't realize hope had already left the room. They assumed you were trapped inside their narrative. They never knew you had already stepped outside of it. They mistook your compliance for agreement. They never questioned why you stopped defending yourself. They felt victorious because you didn't expose the truth immediately. They didn't understand, brother, timing is part of the reveal. They believed the illusion was secure because you let it breathe. They didn't see you were waiting for it to collapse under its own weight. They assumed your silence meant you were losing. They couldn't see you were gathering everything you needed to leave cleanly. They thought they were playing you. They never realized you were letting the game finish itself. And brother, when all the noise finally died, this truth landed quietly. You were never unaware. You were never naive. You were never powerless. You were watching. You were waiting. You were choosing your exit with surgical patience. They didn't play you into defeat. They played themselves into full visibility. And when the mask finally fell, you didn't confront it. You didn't argue. You didn't seek validation. You simply walked away with clarity in your hands. And clarity is the one thing no one can argue with. They may still replay moments where they thought they outsmarted you. They don't realize those moments were never victories. They were scenes you allowed to continue so the truth could expose itself without interruption. Brother, you didn't lose the game. You outgrew it. They assumed your silence meant you were behind. They never considered that silence was how you stayed ahead without revealing direction. They believed deception was working because you never challenged it. They didn't understand truth doesn't always rush to interrupt lies. Sometimes truth waits until lies collapse under their own effort. They thought they were bending reality around you. They never realized reality was bending them into exactly who they had always been, beneath the performance. They felt powerful because you didn't resist. They never recognized the difference between resistance and sovereignty. They believed they were teaching you a lesson. They didn't know the lesson was being documented from the very first move. They assumed your endurance meant dependence. They didn't see it was simply your way of letting their full character surface. They thought you stayed because you didn't know your worth. They never understood you stayed long enough to never doubt it again. They thought their masks were convincing. They didn't realize you weren't trying to see through them. You were watching how long they could wear them before exhaustion exposed everything. They assumed your calm proved their lies were effective. They didn't understand your calm proved how predictable their patterns had become. They felt untouchable because you didn't react. They didn't know you had already touched the truth and didn't need to announce it. They thought consequences required confrontation. They never learned that the most permanent consequences arrive without a single argument. They thought you needed closure through conversation. They didn't realize your closure arrived through observation. They thought cruelty would break you. They didn't see it only confirmed what you already understood. They assumed you were still attached to the outcome. They didn't notice the outcome no longer belonged to you. It belonged to their exposure. They expected drama. They weren't ready for the quiet precision of your departure. And brother, this is where the truth locks into place. Without revenge, without apology, without noise. You were patient in a room of performers. You were observant in a room of manipulators. You were still in a room addicted to chaos. They thought you were playing you. What they never accepted is that you were letting the illusion run its full course, so when you left, you would never question your decision again. You didn't exit in rage. You didn't expose in chaos. You didn't retaliate in noise. You exited in clarity. And clarity is final. They may still believe they almost won, but the truth is simple, quiet, and permanent. They lost the moment you stopped needing to prove you were ever being played.